Update. How do I, 49 female, move forward after my daughter, 22 female, hid her father's affair from me for 2 years? Original post. I, 49 female, was married to my ex-husband, Derek, 49 male, for 20 years before divorcing a few months ago. We have 2 kids, a daughter, 22 female, and a son, 17 male. I found out Derek had been having a 2-year affair and my world was shattered. But what hurt almost as much was discovering that my daughter had known about it the whole time. She actively hid it from me for 2 years, lying, covering for him, and never once trying to warn me. When I found out, I was devastated, not just by my husband's betrayal, but by my daughter's choice to keep it from me. She was young at the time, and I understand it was a difficult position for her, but the pain was immense. I never confronted her directly, thinking it might affect her as she was about to go off to college. I just told her I knew, that I understood and tried to move on. But after she left, I found myself distancing from her more and more. It wasn't planned, I just needed space to heal, and that meant not calling her as often or reaching out as much. Fast forward a year and a half, and I've started dating someone 41 male who has a 10-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. Recently, we all went to Disney together and he posted a family photo of us on social media. For context, my boyfriend covered all the expenses as a gift for his daughter's birthday, wanting to make it special for her. Along with my son and me, she chose her 2 cousins to come along, making it a big family-style trip that was all about her. My daughter must have seen the post because she didn't call me for over a month afterward. And honestly, I wasn't as affected by her absence as I would have been before. I still love her, but every interaction brings up that pain. Out of nowhere, she called me in tears. She was screaming, saying I obviously hadn't forgiven her and that I'd shut her out on purpose. She accused me of replacing her with my boyfriend and his daughter. She kept saying, "It was a long time ago. I was a kid. I didn't mean to hurt you." She explained she thought she was doing the right thing by staying quiet, that she didn't know how to tell me, and that she was terrified of breaking our family apart. She asked me if I'd ever forgive her or if I'd move on for good. I tried to tell her that I loved her and never wanted to replace her, but she just kept pushing, saying I should get over it by now and that I'd abandon her for this new life. To top it off, my ex-husband later called me, furious, accusing me of leaving my daughter for a younger man and a new family. He even had the nerve to call me selfish for moving on. Ironically, his girlfriend is 30, and he's the one who blew up our family with his affair. It feels like no one understands that I'm still trying to recover from years of betrayal, and it seems like I'm expected to just let it go as if my pain doesn't matter. My son, who lives with me, found out about his sister hiding the affair after overhearing my ex-mother-in-law and sister-in-law talking. He was crushed and hasn't forgiven her either, and they've barely spoken since. I never wanted him to know, but it feels like the entire family is divided now, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm in therapy, but I still feel lost. Part of me knows she was young and didn't know how to handle it, but another part of me feels like she chose him over me. I love my daughter, but every time we talk, that hurt resurfaces. I don't know if I'm failing as a mother or if I'm protecting myself. I feel like I've emotionally checked out, and I don't know how to reconnect. Edit. Just to clarify, my divorce actually happened a few months ago, not 3 years ago as I originally mentioned. My sister, who is a bit of a scatterbrain, encouraged me to post here and typed out much of it for me. In the process, she got the timeline wrong and I didn't catch it before posting. My daughter was 17 when she found out about the affair. She had a lot going on at a time, including having to change schools due to some personal issues and repeating a year. So when I found out, it was less than 2 years ago. I hope this clears up the confusion. Now for the top advice before reading the update. You should definitely cut all contact with your ex unless it's about your minor child. Keep all communication via text so you don't have to hear his BS. That he thinks he can call and berate you is unbelievable. Next time, don't pick up or just hung up. Maybe you and your daughter could get therapy together to try and sort things out. I understand she was a kid trying to keep the family together, but your feelings are totally valid. I can't imagine how hurtful it must have been knowing she hid it for so long. It's been 5 years. She could have worked on all of this by now. Her daughter's feelings about being replaced with a new family are totally valid too. Now there's 5 years of damage done to her daughter on top of all the guilt she felt. Holding children to adult standards is BS. I understand your point, but it's actually only been less than 2 years since I found out about everything. Did your daughter ever apologize for what she did? Your ex can go kick rocks. I hope you blocked him after telling him to take a long walk off his short beer and taking a long look in the mirror. He had your daughter complicit in his affair and blew up his marriage. Unfortunately, your daughter has learned not to take accountability from her dad. If you need to be in contact with your ex due to your son, use a family app. Outside of that, don't speak or engage with him. He is an a-hole. OP, I wish you all the best with your healing and happiness. Thank you for your kind words and support. Honestly, my daughter's apology has been complicated. She did express that she was sorry, but it often came with explanations of how difficult it was for her, how she was stuck between her father and me. I can understand that she was young and in an impossible situation, but it still feels like she's brushing aside the depth of the hurt. Sometimes it seems like she doesn't fully understand why it's so painful for me, and that part has been hard to get past. As for my ex, yes, I've definitely limited contact with him to what's necessary for our son. My son mostly stays with me, so that call was a bit unexpected. We rarely speak directly, and when we do, it's usually through our lawyers. Our divorce was only finalized a few months ago, so I'm still adjusting to all the boundaries and just trying to protect my peace. He doesn't deserve any extra energy or emotional space in my life, and I'm doing my best to keep it that way. Now for the update. First, I want to thank everyone who responded to my post. I was honestly overwhelmed by the sheer number of replies. I tried my best to read through as many as I could, and some of the advice was hard to hear but necessary. It's been a lot to take in, but one comment really stayed with me. Someone mentioned how fragile life is and how little time we truly have with the people we love. That struck me deeply. I've been so consumed by the pain and anger that I forgot to think about what I'd want my relationship with my daughter to look like in the long run. If something were to happen tomorrow, would I be okay with leaving things as they are? That thought stayed with me, and within a few days, I decided to contact my daughter. I told her I wanted us to talk, not to rehash the past or point fingers, but to figure out how we could move forward. She was hesitant at first, which I completely understand. We had a conversation a few nights ago, and while it wasn't easy, I'm grateful she was willing to open up. There were tense moments, and I won't lie, it was hard to hear some of what she said. But for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were finally addressing what had been festering between us. We talked about what had happened, and I finally asked her for the truth about everything. When I first discovered her father's affair, he told me that she had always known about it. In fact, he claimed she had been his ally, hiding things from me multiple times. He even said that she disliked me and was on his side. Hearing that from him was devastating. I couldn't believe my daughter would do something like that or feel that way about me. The way I found out about the affair was awful, and the idea that my daughter had played any part in it, even unknowingly, made it so much worse. At first, she was very reluctant to talk about it, but eventually, she opened up and shared everything, including what led to her actions. A few months before discovering the affair, she had been involved in a difficult situation at her high school. Without going into specifics, it was a matter where her actions led to serious consequences. The school had a zero-tolerance policy, and as a result, she was expelled. She had to transfer to a new school and repeat the year. On top of that, her grades suffered, and she found it challenging to get back on track. When it happened, I felt it was important for her to face the full weight of her actions and take responsibility. I grounded her and took away her electronics, hoping the consequences would help her reflect and grow. I wanted her to understand the gravity of the situation and emerge from it as a better person. Her father, however, completely disagreed with my approach. He felt I was being too harsh, insisting that she had already learned her lesson and needed support rather than punishment. The tension in our household became unbearable. Between my frustration with him and my disappointment in her actions, I found it harder and harder to communicate properly with her. There were constant fights, arguments that seemed to erupt over everything and nothing at the same time. It wasn't just them. Therapy over the past year helped me realize that I played a part too. My hurt and frustration often came out as anger, and instead of addressing things calmly, I let my emotions take control. I was constantly angry and frustrated, and my mood likely created an even more tense and uncomfortable environment for everyone. So when she found out about his affair shortly after, she was still angry at me and reeling from everything that had happened. She admitted that part of her decision to stay quiet was fueled by a desire to get back at me. She felt like keeping the secret was her way of taking revenge, though she now realizes how wrong that was. She also told me she had tried to get her father to come clean, but he discouraged her, saying I had already been disappointed enough by her situation and shouldn't be burdened further. Feeling trapped, she lied and kept lying, hoping it would somehow blow over without me finding out. Hearing this from her was heartbreaking. It didn't justify what she did, but it helped me understand her perspective. Knowing her father pressured her to keep the secret makes my anger toward him even stronger. He broke everything with his affair and then used our daughter to cover for him, making her feel trapped and responsible for his lies. I hate what he put her through. To be honest, our marriage was already going through a rough patch at a time, and we likely would have ended up divorcing anyway. However, it's one thing to fail as a husband, but to fail so completely as a parent is unforgivable. They always had a good relationship, and I never wanted to ruin that for her, even when I was angry. But seeing how he used her in his lies has only deepened my resentment. I told her that I've been hurt, not just by her actions, but by how deeply they shook my trust in her. At the same time, I reminded her that I love her and always will. I said that while I can't change the past, I want to rebuild our relationship. We agreed to take things one step at a time. I suggested we try online therapy together. While she was hesitant at first, she agreed. She's already been seeing a therapist on her own and wasn't sure about opening up in a joint session, but I think she ultimately realized how much I want to make this work. I also brought up her brother. They've never had a closest relationship. He's always been more reserved and independent, while she's more outgoing and emotional. There's been tension between them in the past, and ever since he overheard what happened with her hiding the affair, they've barely spoken. I've tried to talk to him about maybe giving her another chance, even when I wasn't on the best of terms with her. I really want them to have a good relationship, but I also don't want to push him too much. He's his own person, and I don't want him to feel like I'm forcing him into something he isn't ready for or doesn't want to do. He is allowed to make his own decisions, and if they need time apart to heal, I'll respect that. Someone mentioned the unrealistic standards we often hold women to, and I've been thinking a lot about that. I don't hold her to any impossible standard just because she's a woman. She is the light of my life, but sometimes I realize I've shared everything in such a negative way because of how it all played out. I'm just trying to make sense of it all. I don't know exactly where I stand or what I'm feeling at times. I'm just moving through life like anyone else, doing the best I can. Thank you all again for your advice and for giving me the push I needed to start this conversation. It's not easy, but I'm hopeful we'll get through this, one step at a time. Please let go of the idea of your son and daughter being close. Don't push for it. Don't ask for it. Just let it go. People choose who they want to engage with, and quite frankly, if I were your son, I would not want to be around your daughter either. They won't be close, and you need to be okay with that. Honestly, I'm coming to terms with it. They have a decent age gap and their personalities are very different, which often causes friction. Even before her concealment of the affair came to light, they weren't close. There are several reasons for it, and I don't want to paint anyone in a bad light, but it's been like this for some time now. Right now, I'm trying to let my son be his own person and respect his feelings. I don't want to pressure him into prioritizing this relationship. I've also put him in therapy to help him process everything. He is a bit apathetic about the situation, not towards me, but towards his sister. He just doesn't care anymore, which in some ways feels worse. But this is where things stand for now, and we don't know what might happen in the future. I'm learning to take it one day at a time. Holy crap, you are both really crappy parents. No wonder your kids have issues. I'm doing my absolute best. It's so easy to sit back and judge without knowing the full picture. Tell me, what makes me a crappy parent for punishing my daughter for her actions? For taking some time to heal and process just because I'm human too? I gave her everything she needed to succeed in life. And as soon as that incident happened, I put her into therapy. I'm 100% okay with facing harsh judgment for how I handled the affair situation. But I'm not okay with being judged for how I handled the school situation. I stand by my decisions. Maybe my tone was off, but I'm confident that what I did was right. Anyone who acts a certain way should be ready to face the consequences. And that's what I was teaching her. Yes, her constant tantrums bothered me. Yes, everything about the situation bothered me on a personal human level. But I'm not some freaking saint who just sits on a high throne. It's easy to point fingers at mothers especially. I know you're calling both of us crappy parents, but I'm going to push back here. We're human too. I did my very best. And no, you don't get to call me a crappy parent. Last story. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my best friend after she talked to my cheating ex-husband behind my back and made hurtful comments? I, 37 female, left my husband, 38 male, earlier this year after discovering he was cheating on me with someone from his workplace. We were together for 12 years, married for 8, and I truly thought we were solid. Finding out he had been sneaking around and lying to me for months was the most gut-wrenching thing I've ever experienced. I found out over Christmas last year. When I decided to leave, I asked my friends for one simple favor. Please don't maintain a relationship with him. I didn't think it was unreasonable. He betrayed me, and I needed my friends to have my back as I tried to pick up the pieces of my life. Most of them understood, but one of my closest friends, Sarah, 38 female, completely ignored my request. Here's the thing. Sarah and I have been best friends for over 15 years, but she's always had a strange dynamic when it came to my relationships. She used to make comments about how she was jealous that I always ended up with the good-looking guys, and would sometimes joke that she had a connection with my ex, even before he and I got together. I used to laugh it off, even though it made me feel uncomfortable and belittled, thinking she didn't mean anything by it. But now I'm not so sure. After the split, I started noticing Sarah acting strangely. She'd casually drop things into conversations that only my ex would know, like details about his new job or what he'd been up to. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off, saying she'd read it on his social media. Eventually, a mutual friend told me Sarah had been texting him regularly and even meeting him for coffee. When I confronted her, she admitted it but tried to downplay it, saying we were friends long before you and he got together. She added, I'm not going to throw away my connection with him just because you two didn't work out. What hurt even more was when she said, I don't get why you're so upset. He's still a great guy, and you need to stop being so controlling. She accused me of being too emotional about the divorce and said I was forcing her to pick sides. Then she told me to stop always being the victim. Here's what really stings. I don't know what he's been telling him about me. I confided in Sarah about everything. How hard it's been to start over, how anxious I feel about my finances, and how much I've struggled with therapy. The thought that she might have shared those deeply personal things with a man who destroyed me makes me sick. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore and stopped speaking to her. Now she's texting me saying she misses our friendship and thinks I'm being unreasonable for cutting her off. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for walking away from Sarah? Was I too harsh? Or did she cross a major line here? Are you sure they weren't sleeping together too? Fairly sure. She is in a relationship with someone else and she seems pretty committed to him. My ex never showed any interest in her. It was always her with the insistence that they had a connection. I highly doubt she is. Either way, please get your full panel checked for STIs. I did get checked right away after I found out he cheated, because he would come home and have unprotected sex with me after being with another woman. She says you're making her pick sides, but she's willing to throw away your friendship to keep him around. She update. My entitled mom wants me to pay my creep stepbrother's student debt. Original post. I, 29 female, have an older stepbrother, Chris, 42 male, who has been a nightmare since the day my mom married his dad. Let me give a bit of a background. Our parents married when I was 4 and he was 17. Both our parents were widowed. After their wedding, we moved to the US since my mom had American citizenship through marriage. I was born in the US too, but after my dad died when I was a year old, my mom and I moved back to Colombia. Stepdad got his residency through marriage and my stepbrother because he was a minor. My stepbrother wasn't a big fan of me. My only memories of him are just constant bullying. He would be left in charge of me since he was studying locally and lived with my parents, but mostly his babysitting really meant things like locking me in the guest bathroom or the shed outside. He would steal my lunchbox whenever he was the one who dropped me off at school. He even began to harm my pets. I have an old cat that has been with me for almost 22 years. He tried more than once to run her over with his car. My parents never believed any of it. He is the classic golden child. My mom absolutely wanted a son instead of a daughter, so my stepbrother took priority over me. The bullying just kept getting worse and creepier. He had this long key for the bathroom. The door was designed in case it got locked by accident. One could open them by inserting a long stick or key through a small hole on the outside. He would use it to walk in on me showering. My underwear would disappear sometimes, and I know for a fact it was him. He also started taking pictures of me sleeping. One night, I woke up to him taking care of himself next to me while I slept. I yelled obviously. My parents came over, but he wasn't in trouble. I was for tempting him. I was 14 when this happened. He was 27. No one helped me and he got bolder until he did something I'm still in therapy for when I was 16. It got to a point where I called my biological half-older brother Sam, 48 male and son of my biological father's first wife, to see if I could live with him and his wife Sandy during my last 2 years of high school. When Sam found out what was going on, he confronted my mom. My mom didn't care and just told him to take me so long he never asked her for money. Done and done. My brother and his wife became my legal guardians and took me in with my cat and the old family dog since I didn't trust leaving any living creature with Chris around. My parents never checked on me. My extended family from my father's side knew what happened and they immediately got together to ensure I could finish school well and go to college. I don't know my maternal family at all. Thanks to my paternal family, including Sam's mother and her family, I got my bachelor's and master's, no student debt, and work as a nurse practitioner. I still live with Sam, his wife, and their 2 kids, and I pay a small rent. Neither Sam nor his wife expected me to pay anything, but that's the least I can do for the 2 people who have taken care of me for 13 years. For anyone wondering why I didn't move, it's incredibly expensive where I live, and Sam insisted I stay with them until I save enough to buy my own home. Things seemed okay until my mom messaged me recently. She had not messaged me since I was 18 when she told me she no longer had any responsibility to me. In this message, she sounded very friendly, telling me how she missed me and asking how I was doing. I was a bit creeped out but decided to be nice, telling her about what I had done since leaving her care. She seemed very interested since apparently she knew I was a nurse, but not what kind I was. She began asking about my salary. I didn't tell her anything about it, but that it was enough to pay the bills. My mom then began texting about Chris and how he was barely making any money due to his student debt. Apparently, Chris never finished a degree, jumping from career to career. He is now working in my stepdad's used car business as a salesman, but most of his pay went to pay the substantial student debt he got over the years. I told my mom how sorry I was that Chris was having a hard time and wished him luck. That's when my mom finally got to what she wanted. She texted me that I needed to pay student debt so he could finally begin to make the money he deserves like the man of the family. I just turned off my phone. When I got home, Sam was surprised since I was usually the last to arrive. Sandy wasn't home yet. I told Sam what happened and showed him my mom's text messages. I don't think I've seen Sam this angry ever. He told me to block my mom, stepdad, and Chris if I had not done so yet. After talking with Sam and Sandy, I called my boss to ask the next day and the one after off. This gave me a 4-day weekend, including the days I'm normally off shift. My boss was more than okay with this and told me to just take it easy and let her know if she could help. This backfired because the next day my mom and Chris decided to come to Sam's house to speak to me. I was alone since Sam and Sandy were at work and the kids were at school. I immediately called Sam and told him what was going on. He told me not to open the door and that he was on his way. My mom spent the whole time screaming that I owed them for raising me and that my sweet brother deserved the money. Chris was going around trying to find a window or door unlocked. There wasn't any since the windows have safety bars, and the only other door is in the closed garage and one in the yard. The yard one was locked, and just in case, I locked the one in the garage. I won't post what he called me when he saw me from one of the windows, but basically he pretty much told me they should have thrown me away when I was a baby, since I grew to be a B. He pounded in one of the windows so hard, he actually cracked the glass. Eventually, he gave up and went back to the front door, clearly trying to kick it down. I didn't have anything to worry about. The door was a security door, but I was still very scared. Between yelling, threatening, pleading, and insults, I finally heard Sam screaming to them to get lost. I only saw things from the window. Sam pretty much dragged them both off the porch. They got to a point I couldn't hear, but I saw my mom and Chris pale and look scared before they pretty much ran to their car and drove off way past the legal speed limit. Sam came in a bit after and immediately went full overprotective brother mode, asking me if I was okay. He kept saying sorry and hugging me. Sandy arrived almost immediately after, and she looked like she was about to commit a felony. Apparently, Sam threatened him with filing charges for what he did to me when I was 16. My brother's ace was my stepdad willing to testify against his own son. That seemed enough to get Chris off our backs, but not my mom. Since then, it's been 3 days and my mom has sent texts called non-stop with various numbers and rallied a group of people who are supposedly my maternal family to harass me for money. She claims that money should legally be hers since she is my mother, that it's my late father's missed child support. Sam is helping me find a lawyer to get a restraining order on my mom, and I plan to take my stepdad's offer to testify by pressing charges against Chris. I can't say I can forgive him for not stopping his son, but I appreciate his at least trying. I don't know the details, but Chris did something to a relative of his dad, and since then they have a really bad fallout. I took my boss's offer and will be on vacation for a few more days. But here it is. My vacation days are getting eaten up, and my therapist might need a therapist after. Thankfully, my dark sense of humor and supportive paternal family are keeping me somewhat sane. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Love, take a breath. You've been through a lot in a very small amount of time. Breathe. I know you need it. I'm so sorry your own mother is doing this to you. It sounds like Sam and Sandy are helping you do everything correctly though. I'm so glad you have them to back you up. God, your mother's a piece of work. I'm glad Sam and Sandy are on your side. Block your entitled mother and the rest of the flying monkeys so you can have some peace of mind to breathe. I personally prefer the description of mom and stepbrother as being baddish crazy. Make sure your credit is locked. First update. I didn't think I would be making an update so soon, but my mother is unrelenting. To the people that were so kind and gave me advice earlier, thank you so much. It really helps to have people show kindness in difficult days. I follow with the advice to freeze my credit, and I will be getting a new phone for personal use. We'll have to keep my old phone for work for a while. Now to the update on the situation. We are going through with pressing charges and might do a civil lawsuit for 2 years of child support my mother owes. We are not sure yet of our chances on it, but my brother Sam wants to go scorch earth. As for my mother, she began a new campaign. She's been posting about me falsely accusing my stepbrother Chris of SA. She's been accusing me of being a temptress that tried for years to sleep with my brother, and even got a few relatives, who I just found out are my aunts, to join in saying they were witnesses. I never met these women in my life. My stepfather actually commented in her post, saying my mom was lying and accusing his own son of being a pedo. That's how I found out what was the big fallout between them. Stepbrother went after one of stepfather's nieces. I don't know the girl's age, but she has to be about my age if I'm thinking of the right person. If not, she's younger than me. A lot of my biological father's relatives have also gone into social media to call out my mother, saying she had always claimed she was an orphan and had no family, while now she has 3 sisters. It's a mess. I'm just watching for now and being a stay-at-home aunt. My nephews love it, since we go out after they finish homework for crazy shenanigans. My boss has helped me with some paperwork for leave of absence, and I should be off for about 6 weeks. After, I'll be mostly working from home for a few weeks. Not the greatest update, and to be sincere, things are not fun. But it's nice to spend time with the kiddos at least. Also, forgot this. No, my mom is not likely sleeping or in a relationship with my stepbrother. Some people had mentioned this. My mom always wanted a son. I was a disappointment because I was born a girl. She treats my brother like he's her real son, and I think she truly loves him as a mother. She made sure to tell me how disappointing it was for her when I was born. Screenshot all she says and save it. My brother got it. I have her blocked. I would post them, but there's a lot of personal information that will be hard to blur. She put the whole rant over a picture of us as a family, so it would be hard to blur faces. Wow, she's a special kind of evil, isn't she? Big hugs. The sort of crap happened to my wife. That money isn't for student loans. So glad you have your brother and his wife. Hugs to you. What a freaking mess. When you do press charges, see if you can get your expenses for therapy covered as part of the case against him. It's the least they owe you. And be strong. He did it before and will do it again. He needs to be locked away. Second update. So this might be my last update on the mess with my mother and stepbrother since we're finally starting the legal fights. But I finally had a good laugh. In my previous post, I haven't said a lot about my biological father. He died when I was a year old, so I never really met him. I have one picture of him holding me when I was an infant. I mostly know him from stories from his family. What I do know is he was a man of means. He had a lot of assets that he had carefully divided in his will. Not like so rich he'll never have to work type, just rich enough that I would be able to live comfortably, so long as I worked and did right by my finances. I was not aware he had made sure to leave me with anything. Neither did my half-brother Sam, his son with his first wife. I'm the daughter of an affair partner turned second wife. My understanding was that anything I inherited was wasted by my mother to buy things for her predator stepson Chris, who she prefers to me. In her words, daughters don't need inheritance, just marry a wealthy old man like me. Well, since my mother and Chris have been harassing me lately, we drove to my dad's lawyer to get some things we need for my dad's records for the lawsuit we are planning. He's a sweet older man, kinda looks like my dad a bit, and was my dad's best friend. When we met, he received me with a hug and told me how happy he was to finally meet with him. His wife was there too, and she also gave me a big hug and told me we needed to have dinner at their place. Once we all caught up, we found out my mother had been faking receipts to get money from my trust. A lot of it. Some of it from when I was under Sam's guardianship. And she is not the executor of my trust. She had to provide receipts for anything. She's been sending receipts for me because I'm still in medical school. I finished school in 2021. Well, her meal ticket not only got torn, but now she's in big trouble. Because this is fraud, and basically my hands are tied about pressing charges or not. She claims me as a dependent on her taxes, so my dad's lawyer would refund her for her expenses. He basically told me there's just no way we can keep this just in civil court. He had to contact IRS and the police. Doesn't help she's been using my social security number for some things she shouldn't. Thank you for the people that advised me to freeze my credit. You guys saved me for sure. I probably won't be able to post for quite a while, and I'm going to be incredibly busy. I'm just mentally exhausted about how much has happened. I wouldn't have done anything about my mom using my trust if she had left me alone. I wouldn't even know about it, because the trust is set for me to take over it with proof of marriage or graduating college. And since I didn't know about it, I never sent the required paperwork to take control. She could have milked it dry if she left me alone and just kept sending fake information. I am in the process to get what's left of my trust. There's quite a bit in it, and should be enough for me to get a house or condo if I combine it with my savings, and still have left over to invest or do other things safely. I might wait for a while to buy anything though. I don't know how safe it would be since my mom still have my social security number. Last story. Update. Am I the a-hole for never telling my mother I'm married into money? Original post. I, 34 female, have a difficult relationship with my mother. She had me when she was 17 and was addicted to various substances when I was growing up. She'd leave me with whoever would watch me for days on end, and I'd end up mostly raising myself. I left home at 16 and couch surfed with various friends until I was able to get my own place. At 25, I met my now husband, and we got married 3 years later. His family's the polar opposite of mine and are incredible. So loving and warm. I honestly consider his parents mine and call them mom and dad. They also happen to be quite well off, but that isn't something I care about. I mention it because it matters to the story. Last year, my mother reached out to me after a decade of not speaking to her, wanting to reconnect and introduce me to my little sister who was 2 years old. I was confused as I hadn't even known she'd been pregnant, but it seems she'd been a change of life baby. I thought maybe she'd turn over a new leaf, and if not, I wanted to make sure the kid was okay. At first it seemed like things had changed and she was trying. This illusion lasted for the first few visits over 6 months. Then she broke down, told me she couldn't do this, and asked me to take my sister. My husband and I had a long talk about it. We'd been struggling with fertility and had been considering adoption anyway. We told her if we were doing this, we were doing it right. And we had his family lawyer ensure it was a legal adoption and airtight, which took several months. My in-laws adore her and consider her their granddaughter. They've even set up a trust fund for her. We have allowed my mother one supervised visit per month, so she's not totally cut off from my sister. But it was during these visits things went badly, as she saw how she was dressed and the toys she had, and realized they were expensive. She began to rip into us for hiding the fact we have money, and how if we'd had just given her money, she'd have not given us my sister, as she could have taken care of her better. I told her while we have some money, it's mostly my husband's parents' money, not ours, so she had no right to know about it. Also, that I wouldn't have given her money anyway as I didn't trust her. She broke down calling me a selfish bee who'd never considered how hard things were for her. I now feel some guilt. My husband has told me if it would make me feel better, he'll give her money. But that seems like a bad idea. I should likely use it badly or blow through it than expect more. Despite this though, I do feel bad. Maybe I should have tried to help her more now my luck is better, or maybe I should have been honest with her. Am I the a-hole for keeping this from her? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. If hubby wants to pay for something, it can be a treatment program for mom to get the help she needs. But you are most definitely not the a-hole. Mom is trying to manipulate. I tried many times to try to get her to get clean over the years, before I cut off contact. She had no interest, and I don't think that has changed at all. If I thought that she'd even consider it, I'd be having him do that, if it truly wants to spend money on her. Don't give her a penny. She'll come back for more, and you know she will deep down. Yeah, I do. I want to help her despite how she was with me growing up. But I know that's not the right way to go about it. Just this has brought up a lot of old feelings I thought long gone. And guilt. Your mom doesn't want the money so she can take care of your sister. She just realized she lost her chance at a free meal ticket before she gave her up for adoption. Now for the update. I got some really good feedback from my post, and it led to my husband and I staying up most of the night discussing what we wanted to do, and a decision was reached. It wasn't an easy one, but we have a child to think of now, and she has to come first. We blocked my mother on every social media. We changed our phone numbers, and we reached out to the family lawyer to get in contact with her to inform her that all visits have been stopped, after how she spoke to me in front of my sister. She has to get clean for at least a year, with weekly tests, if she wants to see my sister again. My mother can contact our family lawyer if she needs help with the tests, but beyond that, she gets no help from us, unless she wants to go to rehab, which we will pay for, directly to the rehab, not her. My husband, sister, and I have also moved in with my in-laws for the time being, as my mother knows where we live. We will be looking for a new place, and my in-laws are aware of the situation and that we are cutting all contact for now. Honestly, my in-laws are delighted to have us staying with them. When we arrived, the guest room my sister is using for now had an army of squishmallows on the bed. They are her current obsession, and my father-in-law makes sure to bring a new one each time he sees her. I always think she must have them all now, and each time I'm wrong. How he keeps track of what she has and doesn't have, I don't know, as he never buys doubles. We are settling in well. We are even planning a small holiday with just my husband, sister, and I to get away from the stress we've been under. Nowhere abroad as she doesn't have a passport yet, but we'll be fixing that soon, as we want to take her to Lapland for Christmas. All in all, we're doing alright, though I admit I'm feeling very conflicted and guilty over this. Even though I know it's the right choice, it just doesn't make it easy. Thank you all so much for your comments and advice on the original post. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister with childcare after her son bullied mine? I, 28 female, have a 4-year-old son, Max, with my husband, Tom, 29 male. Max was born with cerebral palsy and requires certain accommodations. His main two are crutches for walking and his AAC device. An AAC is an iPad/tablet-like device that lets him tap pictures or icons to communicate. Just because he can't physically form words doesn't mean he doesn't have meaningful thoughts. He communicates just like any other 4-year-old and loves talking about typical kid stuff. My sister, 30 female, has 2 kids, James 10 male and Lucy 6 female. Jane is a single parent and works longer hours than Tom and I. To help her out, James and Lucy take the bus to our house every day. We feed them dinner, ensure they do their homework, and take care of them until Jane picks them up between 7 to 8 p.m. On Wednesday night, the kids were playing as usual when we noticed James start mimicking the way Max walks and talks. He exaggeratedly walked with a limp and made strange sounds, clearly imitating Max. Tom immediately told him to stop. However, James kept doing it, and Lucy laughed along. Max became visibly upset. Tom called them both out of the family room and scolded them firmly but without yelling. James got very quiet and sat at the table until Jane arrived to pick them up. The next day, Thursday, James did it again. When I asked him why, he said, "My mom told me it's okay." I was furious. I told him to sit at a table for the rest of the evening. When Jane came to pick them up, Tom and I took her aside to talk. She said she didn't see what the big deal was and claimed James was just joking. I told her ableism is never funny and that if her child couldn't behave appropriately, he wouldn't be welcome anymore. Jane responded by saying I was being overprotective and that Max would have to learn to deal with people being mean to him because it's inevitable. I told her my 4-year-old deserved to feel safe in his own home and I wouldn't tolerate this behavior. Jane got upset, took her kids, and left. The next morning, I called the school and told them not to send James and Lucy to my house on a bus anymore. The school has an after-school program that runs until 7 p.m., but it costs money. When Jane came to my house that evening to pick up the kids, I informed her they were at the school program. She panicked and rushed to get them. This morning, I woke up to a barrage of angry texts from Jane, accusing me of being cruel and unreasonable. She was especially upset when I reminded her she'd now have to pay for childcare. When Jane realized the financial impact, she shifted her tone and tried apologizing, claiming she'd talk to James about his behavior. I told her it was too late, the damage was done, and her kids were no longer welcome at my house. Jane argued that she couldn't afford the childcare costs and might have to find another job. I told her that wasn't my problem. Now she's even angrier, and I'm questioning whether I handled the situation correctly. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister and nephew both faced the natural consequences of their actions. You have a duty to protect your child. On the first night, you corrected the behavior with the children. Then your sister undermined your authority in your own home. She has become too comfortable with you essentially co-parenting her children and feels entitled to co-parent your child. She doesn't feel bad that your son was hurt by her son's actions. Instead, she's encouraging her son to act out because she disagrees with your parenting style. When you addressed the issue, she refused to acknowledge her responsibility. You told her to seek alternative childcare. Yes, the time frame was short, but child care programs can terminate care just as quickly in cases of misbehavior or other issues. She isn't remorseful for hurting her nephew. She's only upset that her actions had consequences. Exactly. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Imagine thinking that it's okay to mock the disabled son of the person who is co-parenting your children and saving you thousands of dollars a year without taking a cent. The shocked Pikachu face when they stop helping you. Shaking my head. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You're 100% right. Ensuring Max feels safe in his own home is the priority. Your sister has no genuine remorse for her actions or her children's. She only changed her tune when she realized it was going to cost her money. Family should be a safe place, and she has proven she doesn't deserve to be a part of Max's life. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to contribute money to my mom's family Christmas gift after finding out it's going to my brother? I, 25 female, have 2 siblings. My older brother Alex, 28 male, and my younger sister Lily, 19 female. My mom recently came up with an idea for a family Christmas gift that we would all chip in for. She told us it was something that would benefit everyone, but wouldn't reveal what it was. She just said she needed $500 from each of us by the end of the month. Now, $500 is a lot of money for me. I just started a new job, and I'm still trying to save up after struggling financially for a while. I told my mom I needed more details before I could commit, but she kept brushing me off, saying it was a surprise. A few days ago, I found out the truth. Lily let it slip that the family gift is actually a down payment on a new car for Alex. Apparently, his car broke down recently and he needs a replacement. My mom thought it would be a good idea for all of us to pitch in and get him something nice for Christmas. I was furious. Alex is 28, has a stable job, and makes way more money than I do. On top of that, my mom never asked any of us if we were okay with this. She just assumed we'd all go along with it. When I confronted her, she said it's only fair since Alex does a lot for the family and deserves it. I told her I wasn't contributing and that it was ridiculous to call this a family gift when it's only for Alex. She got upset and said I was being selfish and ungrateful. Alex chimed in saying I could afford it if I really cared and accused me of being jealous of him. Even Lily sided with them, saying it's not a big deal and that I'm ruining Christmas by making it an issue. Now my whole family is mad at me. They're calling me cheap and saying I'm being petty over something that's supposed to be a nice gesture. I feel bad for causing tension, but I also feel like I'm being taken advantage of. Not the a-hole. Your mom springing a $500 family gift on you without being upfront is really shady, especially since it's just for Alex's car. It's not your job to fund your own brother's problems, especially when he's better off financially than you. You have every right to say no since it's your money, and $500 is no joke. Them guilt-tripping you and calling you selfish isn't fair. You're not ruining Christmas. They're the ones making it so one-sided. Stand your ground. The fact that Alex piled on with such a condescending comment makes it clear this isn't a gift but a demand. He should be ashamed. Alex is not ashamed. He's the only son, no doubt the golden child. He's entitled beyond measure because that's how he was raised. I bet if Opie thought back to her childhood, she'd see plenty of times when Alex was favored. Mom knows Alex is better off financially than Opie. Yet, she still made this sneaky, underhanded, and unfair demand. That's why she was so evasive when questioned. If I were Opie, I'd seriously consider going no contact at this point. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad and his wife I won't take responsibility for my disabled stepsister's care in the future? My parents are divorced, and I, 17 male, mostly live with my mom. 5 years ago, my dad got married to Rebecca, and Rebecca and her daughter, Yasmin, moved in with my dad. Yasmin is 7 now and severely disabled. She can't talk or do things for herself. I don't know much about her condition overall because I never spent much time with Rebecca or Yasmin. However, I've learned some things over the past few years. I know Rebecca has a fund set aside for Yasmin's future care, and my dad has been paying into it. He's invested more into her future than he ever did into mine, which is a sore point for me, but I understand she needs it more. Yasmin's dad doesn't do anything for her, so my dad took on the role of ensuring she'd be cared for. The issue is that my dad and Rebecca are worried about what will happen to Yasmin when they die. If something happened to them tomorrow, the money is there for her care. But Yasmin's father doesn't care about her, and there's no other family to step in. This came up the other day when my dad asked me to spend the day with him. I agreed, and he invited me to his house for dinner. However, dinner didn't happen because they sat me down to ask if I would look after Yasmin and be a big brother to her when they're gone. They wanted me to take responsibility for her care, whether that meant overseeing her needs in a care home or even taking care of her myself if necessary. They told me Yasmin is my sister now, and even though we're not related by blood, she is family and needs me. I said no. I told them I wouldn't take responsibility for her. My dad told me I needed to do it for him and said he doesn't ask for much. I admit I snapped and told him he never gives me much, which he said was unfair and that I shouldn't punish Yasmin for it. He said I needed to step up and be a bigger man. Rebecca asked how I could be around her, a sweet girl, and not want to protect her. I told them I've hardly been around Yasmin, don't feel a family bond or loyalty toward her, and they couldn't bully me into it. I left because they only got angrier. My dad has since called my mom's phone looking for me a couple of times. My mom told him he had no right to speak to me the way he did, and that I don't owe him the peace of mind of caring for his stepchild after he's gone. She really stood up for me. Now, my dad and Rebecca are saying I'm a heartless monster for saying no. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Yay for your mom. Tell your dad and stepmom that you will never be your stepsister's caretaker, and they can stop trying to bully you into it. In order to build a sense of family, a parent actually has to be involved in their kid's life. Your dad didn't bother, and your stepmom didn't either. Now they're wondering why you feel no sense of obligation or connection. Not the a-hole. Do you even need to ask? Your dad and stepmom are horrible for asking this of you in the first place, let alone trying to force you into agreeing. You're 17, still a minor. Even after you turn 18, your life is just starting. Taking responsibility for a disabled person is a huge commitment, and it's unfair for them to expect you to promise something like that. Your dad and stepmom are being selfish. They should be making plans for Yasmin's care in a good institution for after they're gone. I think that's the plan, but they want me to take charge and make sure everything's good. If it's not, they want me to step in and fix it. I really don't want that job. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my brother's girlfriend stay in my guest room after she made a scene at dinner? So I, 30 female, live in a nice 2-bedroom apartment in the city. One of my bedrooms is a guest room, and my family often uses it when they come to visit. I'm close with my brother Alex, 27 male, and he recently started dating a woman, Jenna, 26 female. This weekend, Alex asked if he and Jenna could stay with me while they visited the city. I said yes, of course, because I wanted to meet her, and Alex has always been respectful of my home. Things started off fine, but at dinner on the first night, Jenna made things awkward. We were eating at a nice Italian restaurant, and while we were waiting for our food, Jenna started talking about how people who rent instead of owning homes are financially irresponsible. I laughed it off at first, thinking it was a joke, but she doubled down, saying it was basically throwing money away every month. I calmly told her that I rent because I value the flexibility it gives me, especially since my job might require me to relocate in the next few years. She then said, well, maybe if you stopped spending so much money on eating out, you'd be able to afford a down payment. Alex looked mortified and told her to drop it, but she wouldn't. She went on to say that people like me are part of the reason the economy is so messed up, because we don't prioritize home ownership. I snapped back and told her she was being rude and condescending, and that my financial choices were none of her business. The rest of the dinner was tense, and when we got back to my apartment, I told Alex privately that I didn't feel comfortable having Jenna stay in my home anymore. He tried to apologize on her behalf, but I stood firm. I told him he was welcome to stay, but Jenna had to find another place. Jenna overheard and got upset, accusing me of being overly sensitive and dramatic. She said she didn't mean anything by her comments, and that I was taking things too personally. Alex ended up leaving with her, and now he's upset with me, saying I overreacted and put him in an awkward position. I feel bad for making Alex choose, but at the same time, I feel like Jenna disrespected me in my own home and doubled down when called out. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If she didn't mean anything she said, she wouldn't have said it in the first place. She actually doubled down and blamed people like OP for the economic situation. Part of me thinks Jenna was feeling insecure or something. The way she attacked OP was not normal. The audacity of the girl. She probably doesn't have a pot to piss in and has the nerve to lecture you on your finances. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I think Jenna was envious of OP's home and wanted to make OP feel bad. Some people hate to see other people having nice things. Last story. Am I the a-hole for canceling everyone's Christmas because my mom called the cops on my husband? Usually, my husband, 30 male, and I, 27 female, host Christmas Eve at our house. It's nothing big, just my divorced parents and my 3 teenage siblings. This year, we have a newborn and skipped Thanksgiving, but I've felt comfortable hosting Christmas. Until my mom called the cops on my husband a few weeks back. One of my sisters, 19 female, called me, crying, asking me to pick up our younger sister, 17 female, because she had just gotten into a fight with my mom, and my mom slapped her. Our newborn baby was sleeping, and we wanted to get this 17-year-old ASAP. So I stayed behind while my husband went to get both my sisters. My mom and my 17-year-old sister were at the laundromat. The altercation happened at home. When my husband walked up to their car and told my sister, "Let's go," my mom freaked out, caused a scene, and started yanking on the car door, telling him to let my sister out or she'd call the cops. At this point, my husband had locked the door and kept telling my mom he wasn't letting her out, that she needed space, and that he was bringing her back to our place. My mom walked away and told him to drive off. She could send the cops to my house if she wanted. I was on the phone with him. She called the cops and it backfired. The cops sided with us and agreed that the 17-year-old should have been removed from the situation and should stay with me for a few days. This enraged my mom. For some odd reason, she hates that my sisters and I are close. She has been telling them for years to keep secrets from me and not tell me what happens in her house, though they still do. She has called family meetings with my siblings just to say they need to stop running to meet to vent. She says whatever happens in her house is none of my business. She treats me like I am some random outsider and not her literal daughter, and I'm tired of it. She tends to sweep everything under the rug. She never talks about issues and just continues as if she didn't hurt anyone's feelings. She also has a tendency to pull the, "well, sorry, I am such a bad mom" card or deflect and gaslight. A lot. After she called the cops and my husband with the intention of getting him in trouble, I am not letting her just sweep this under the rug and show up for Christmas like we are one big happy family. If she cannot come to us like an adult, apologize and have a mature conversation, she is not welcome in my home. So Christmas Eve is canceled. I'm also not going to raise my daughter around people who make her parents feel like crap. I'm not allowing her to see that people who are supposed to love you can treat you however they want just because they're family. Now, backstory on my mother. I have never considered us to be close. She put me through a lot as a child, and my teen years living with her sucked. She has serious narcissistic tendencies and seriously needs therapy, but I don't even trust her to be honest with a therapist. She's the type to make everyone else the bad guy and make herself look good. There are years and years of incidents with her, but this year I've really had it. However, I've put up with her because of my siblings. So anyways, am I the a-hole for canceling everyone's Christmas? Not the a-hole for uninviting your mom, but I think you should still host Christmas for the rest of the family, as it seems like your sisters and dad didn't do anything wrong. Plus, hosting Christmas while uninviting your mom would send a much stronger message. Or maybe I'm just a petty a-hole for suggesting this. Lol. The thing is, she's the type to not let my siblings come, or she'll make their lives hell for the next week or two. My siblings would be walking on eggshells until she decided she was over it. We're thinking of inviting the kids and my dad over for breakfast and gifts on Christmas Day instead of Christmas Eve, all night. I mean, you already found a great way to deal with her. Every time she throws a tantrum, you can pick your sisters up, or they can go to your place to chill. What's your mom going to do? Call the cops? Lol, fair about picking them up. It's just dropping them back off and putting them in a situation that's full of tension. I don't love the idea of that.